Hello and welcome to Daily Records. Today's album is an album that I've sort of recently discovered in a band that I'm recently sort of getting into, but I wanted to feature him on Daily Records. This is Daniel Amos. The name of the band is Daniel Amos, not the name of a person. And this was their third album called Horrendous Disc. Now, this album is really, just looking at the cover, is just a really interesting looking thing, because you've got the green and red record up here floating, this weird font, and it's called Horrendous Disc. But then you got a picture of these guys. Now, if you've known Daniel Amos, the first two albums, they're self-titled, and the album that came after that, which was called Shotgun Angel, came out in '77. That album, those albums were sort of country rock. They're very much in line with the Eagles. And if you just look at the band right there on the cover, that kind of makes sense. They're standing in like just some neighborhood. It's a very just weird cover to me. Then you flip it over on the back cover, and equally strange. I mean, these guys definitely have a sense of humor. You've got the green light shining down there. Just it's funny to me. Now, this album was recorded in '78, but it wasn't released until April of 1981. By Larry Norman. And a lot of people know Larry Norman as one of the early guys in Jesus music, or Jesus rock, one of the early Christian rock albums. But by the time they got to this Horrendous Disc, they had pretty much stopped doing the whole country rock thing. It was kind of a thing of the past. Now, the main guy on the writer for this band was Terry Scott Taylor, who was sort of the brains behind this group, and he was pushing them in a more sort of pop rock oriented direction. And this album bridges the gap between Shotgun Angel and the next album, which is called Alarma, which is part of the Alarma Chronicles, which is more post-punk, new wave. It's way out there. But this album is more of just a sort of a pop rock, but it features song titles like I Love You, number 19, Nearsighted Girl with Approaching Tidal Wave, Sky King Out Across the Sky, and there's a great song on here called Man in the Moon, and then, of course, the title track, Horrendous Disc. And the band had started doing a lot of this material in the late '70s, but when the album itself didn't get released until '81, so it really sat on the shelf for a while. But and it sort of got overshadowed by Alarma, because when Alarma came out, Alarma is a great title because it was shocking to listeners. But they found this album, I mean, the reviews were that it was bizarre, but it was also multifaceted. So it was really different than what had come before. But most notably was the sense of humor, as you can tell by the album cover and the design and everything. This band was not just singing this sort of praise and worship Jesus music. It was sort of a more of a kind of a spooky concept, and it was just an original type sound. But I find the album quite enjoyable from top to bottom, listening to it. They're just really good songs, good guitars, good singing. Just an overall, just a very, very good listen. And so this is one of those bands that kind of slipped under the radar. I'd heard a lot of Christian music, not a big fan of most of it. And so I don't know how Daniel Amos slipped through, but I was recently pointed in their direction by a good friend, and have been kind of listening to a lot of their stuff, and I'm finding it all to be really, really good stuff. It's not really preachy, so if that's not your thing, then this might be a band or a group to look into. But Daniel Amos, Horrendous Disc, the gap between a country rock sound and a new wave sound, how you jump from that to that, this may be the answer. But that is today's Daily Record. Like, comment, subscribe, share. I appreciate everyone that interacts. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's TommyBurton75. And you can usually see what I'm spinning on there. Check out my other channel. There's a link up in my box on the header of this page. And in the meantime, I'll see you all again tomorrow with another Daily Record.